All right, by now you should actually understand what happens to equilibrium when supply or demand changes. But what happens if they both change at the same time? Because, yeah, that could happen. So, when supply and demand change at the same time. All right, here's the deal. I'm going to go through the possibilities, but I'm going to draw one graph. So, if you're keeping up with me, okay, I would suggest that, hey, you draw a graph, show what happens when both of them change, and then draw a new graph. So I'm starting with, let's say that both of them increase. Let's say both supply and demand increase. So let's say that, hey, maybe we have a product out there where there is more suppliers all of a sudden. Maybe there's more companies that are making this product. And, hey, everybody really likes it, and so the demand also increases. So we're going to have, start with, there's our original equilibrium, and we're going to have, okay, there's more producers. We're going to have a right shift in supply. And we're also going to have a right shift in demand. So now here's our new equilibrium. Well, look at that for a second. The difference between E1 and E2, and I did label it that way for a reason. Look at what happens. Let's talk about quantity first. So what happened to my quantity from E1 to E2? Well, obviously it increased. It goes from here to here. So our quantity increased. But what happened to my price? Remember, price is over here. Price pretty much stayed the same, right? Well, here's the thing is that when both supply and demand increase, we know that the quantity is going to increase, but you don't know what happens to the price, because potentially I could have, for example, I could have the demand curve shift way over here, okay? And now what happens is now my equilibrium is here. And now, oh look, my equilibrium price goes up. Or what if I go and cause my supply curve to shift all the way over here? Well, now my new equilibrium is here. And look, my price went down. They were still right shifts, but the difference is that it depends by how much the supply or demand curve shifts by. So all we're saying here is that when there is a right shift in both supply and demand, the quantity is for sure going to increase, but you don't know what happens to the price, because, hey, if the demand curve shifts by more than shifts to the right more than the supply curve, then the price goes up. If the supply curve shifts more, then the price goes down. So you just don't know. All right, well, let's look at what if I'm going to take these off, so I'm going to erase them. So what if I have both of them shift to the left? So maybe, hey, it costs less to produce, it costs more to produce this product. So we're going to have a left shift in supply. And maybe, the price of a substitute is going down. So it's going to cause a left shift in demand. All right, well, now our new equilibrium is here. Well, what happened to my quantity? Going from here to here, my quantity decreased. But what happened to my price? Kind of the way I drew it, it's a little bit of an increase, maybe. But again, you don't know, because of the fact that since you don't know how much the demand curve shifted to the left or how much the supply curve shifted to the left, which one is a bigger shift? You don't know what happened to the price. So anytime both supply and demand shift to the left, you know that the quantity is going to decrease, but the price change is unknown. You just don't know. All right, so let's split the difference. Let's say we're going to have one shift to the left and one shift to the right. So let's start with supply shifting to the left. So it's, we're going to have this company is receiving less subsidies. And maybe let's say that there is some complements that are going to decrease in price. So you have a right shift in demand. So now here's our new equilibrium. Well, look what happened to my equilibrium price going from E1 to E4. Oh, price is increasing. But what happened to my quantity? Well, the way I drew it, quantity looks like it's staying the same. Well, it could be it stays the same, or it could be, hey, maybe the right shift in demand is greater than the left shift in supply. Well, then the quantity is increasing. Or maybe the left shift in supply is greater than the right shift in demand and the quantity decreases. But you don't know that. So when there's a supply shifts to the left and demand shifts to the right, the price is for sure going to increase, but you don't know what happens to the quantity. Okay, let's try again. Let's say that there is a right shift in supply. So let's say that, hey, maybe there is, better work environment for the workers. So it's going to cause a right shift in supply. But at the same time, maybe, hey, consumers are expecting that the price is going to drop in the future. It's going to cause a left shift in demand. All right, so now here's our new equilibrium. What happened to my equilibrium price? Well, going from E1 to E5, my price went down. But what happened to my quantity? Well, quantity is kind of unknown because I drew it so that they exactly line up. But quantity could increase if my right shift in supply is greater than my left shift in demand, or quantity could decrease if my left shift in demand is greater than my right shift in supply. Either way, when the supply shifts to the right and demand shifts to the left, the price is going to decrease for sure, but the quantity change is unknown. Now, the reason I show you this and explain this to you is because of the fact that, hey, it does happen in real life. So you do have to recognize that while you may not know for sure one of them, in real life, it will become apparent which one is the greater shift, because eventually it'll come out that, hey, there's more out there for sale, or there's less, or the price is increasing or decreasing, and they will tell you that. Okay, but you do need to know what happens when both of them shift. All right, that's it for now. Let me know if you have any questions.